Good day, students! Welcome to the Module 6, where we will be discussing the typical and atypical development among children. I am Teacher Viens, and typical development focuses on the predictable course of a children's development, and the atypical development means that that child or the group of children deviates from the set predictable guidelines. Childhood is a period of immense growth in the context of physical, social, cognitive, and emotional development. So in this module, we will be tackling what typical and atypical development patterns from birth to adolescence. The first 5 years of childhood development is the most critical and crucial times. Why is that? Because in these times, rapid growth takes place. Like for example, in physical aspect of the development, children start to explore how their body moves, and that would affect their adulthood physical aspect. Like for example, if this particular child is very flexible during their childhood, then in their adulthood they will be very flexible also. And another example would be their critical thinking. If that child develops critical thinking at a very early age, then that would sequate, or that would imply that in their adulthood, they would have much better critical thinking. Parents and guardians should monitor the development of their children in these ages, because it would be very effective to what they will become in the near future. In the early 20th century, child development theories emerges because they already studied, or they have observed a lot of children that deviates from the normal or typical development patterns. There are 5 stages of child development. First stage would be the newborn from 0 to 3 months. Next would be the infant stage from 3 to 12 months. Toddler from 1 to 3 years. Preschool age from 3 to 4 years, and the last age would be the school age from 4 to 5 years. There are 4 characteristics of child development. First would be the communication and speech domain. In this domain, it focuses more on the communication skills of the child. Like for example, they start to explore language use, and for that they start to read, they start to write, and having this skill, they acquire also speech skills. For that, they can have better and more effective communication with their peers as well as their parents and friends. Next domain would be the physical domain, which has 2 subdomains: the gross motor skill development and fine motor development. Gross motor development focuses on large muscle groups that does the huge activities such as running, walking, jumping, climbing, and etc. Also, we have fine motor development, which focuses on small muscle groups, which are focused on our hands, our fingers, our toes, that have more precision activities such as writing, eating, picking, etc. Next domain would be the social and emotional domain. It has 2 subdomains, which is the self-awareness and social skills. Self-awareness focuses on the understanding of their identity, their moral values, their wants, their needs, and as well as their self-image. And having this self-awareness, they start to have social skills, because these awareness or this image of themselves, they try to relate, or they try to contradict with other people. In that sense, they start to emerge how to communicate and how to socialize with their peers. The last domain would be the cognitive domain, which implies that children start to gain knowledge. They start to comprehend through their senses on how the things on the surroundings or in the world actually takes place. Like for example, this particular child starts to explore things such as touching hot mug that is full of coffee, and with that knowledge, or with that comprehension that this cup of coffee is hot, they have developed critical thinking. In this critical thinking, it is an emergence from the comprehension, because having their comprehension, having their knowledge gained from the physical world, they start to interpret to their own minds how this actually works and how to actually avoid or flourish things surrounding them for their own good, of course. to discuss more on the progression of the child development, let's have teacher Honey May to discuss what is the progression through the milestones is all about.
Good day everyone, I am teacher Honey, and in this discussion we are going to talk about progressing through the milestones. So when we say progressing through the milestones, we are actually talking about the stages of development of a child relative to the domains discussed earlier by Sir Vians. And as we all know, there are 5 stages of development. So first, we will now discuss the newborn stage. So newborn stage includes 0 to 3 months babies. So communication and speech domain, they start to make eye contact and listen towards voices, which shows early signs of communication skills. Next, physically they start to turn towards sounds and follow objects. And then they start to smile during 2 to 3 months, which show early signs of social engagement. And then cognitively, they start to show interest in people's faces and objects. So in general, newborn exhibits early communication skills, physical responsiveness to stimuli, social engagement through smiling, and cognitive interest in faces and objects, which lays foundation in their development. So moving on to the next stage, the infant stage. So this includes babies aging from 3 to 12 months. So the infant stage is further categorized into 3 sub-stages, and these are 3 months, 7 to 9 months, and 9 to 12 months. So in the communication and speech domain, infant starts babbling, which are the building blocks of words, and they further develop it in the next stage. And then in the next stage, they are improving these skills and they start to communicate using gestures. In the physical domain, infant starts to gain control over their hands and arms, and this further develops in the next stage as it improves as they start to stand briefly during 9 to 12 months. So in the social and emotional domain, infants during their 3 months period, they start to show frustrations or happiness, and then they develop this social behavior further as they start to learn to communicate and engage with other kids around them. So in the cognitive domain, infants from 3 months start to notice sound, and then they further develop their cognitive skills through observing things as they drop, which is related to cause and effect, and then they further develop these skills as they progress in the next substage. So in general, infants' development comes in ranges, from babbling to using gestures in communication, crawling to standing, developing social engagement and behaviors, and developing cognitive skills. So the next topic is the toddler stage, which will be discussed by teacher Jeros.
Thank you, teacher Honey, for that lesson. In continuation of that, let us talk about the remaining 3 stages of the development. First is the toddler stage. These are the children ages from 1 to 3 years old. As what teacher Honey mentioned earlier, there are 4 domains of development. Let's talk first about the communication and speech during the first year of the toddler. They tend to say their first word, developing by saying phrases, and in the 3rd year, they tend to say complex sentences. Physical, toddlers 1-year-old tend to practice crawling and start standing up during their 2nd year and try to practice walking during their 3 years. Toddlers, in terms of social and emotional development, they have visual recognition and they can even identify themselves in the mirror. And they always want to do things they want to. Cognitive development of them is that they can identify colors, solve puzzles, and even fully develop object permanence. Preschool age. These are children ages from 3 to 4 years old. Children during this age, their communication and speech development is that they ask a lot of questions due to their curiosity. Their physical development relies on independence and they have this motor skills mastery. During this stage also, the social and emotional aspect is much more sensitive. Their cognitive development also is that their memory is much more enhanced. The last stage of development is the school age. These are the children ages from 4 to 5 years old. During their communication and speech, they can now communicate with complex sentences and even tell stories. Their physical development is that they can take care of themselves. They are already aware of what to do and what they are doing. Social and emotional growth of them also, they have their friends and they are now socially much more active in their surroundings. Cognitive stage is that they are more sensitive to the point they know what is right and what is wrong. In conclusion, as we journey through the stages of development, from the toddler stages early communication milestone to the preschool ages curiosity-driven question asking, and finally the school age mastery of complex speech and heightened social awareness, we witness a remarkable progression in the holistic development of children encompassing communication, physical abilities, emotional sensitivity, and cognitive prowess. To discuss the typical development, let us call Teacher Irene.
Now, let us talk about typical development. Let us define what is typical development. Typical development occurs when a child develops with a standardized development and follows appropriate stages. Children gather information from their environment and people around them. When children learn, they tend to observe their parents, their friends, and their teachers, and they will connect what they have learned from the past to their new learnings. And now, children development follows predictable course. That's why it is called typical development. Now, a children follows development that what we call developmental milestones. But let us talk about the developmental milestones. These milestones are behaviors that emerge over time, forming the building blocks for growth and continued learning. First is cognition. Now, cognition involves thinking, problem solving, understanding, and reasoning. For example, is the children will learn how to write, or the children will learn how to count basic numbers. Second is language. Now, in this milestone, the children will learn their language and use this to communicate with their parents or their friends. Next is motor coordination. Now, in this milestone, the children will slowly learn how to crawl, to jump, to hop, and to run, and other physical activities. Next is social interaction. In this milestone, the children will tend to interact with other people or their friends, such as playing with their peers. And next is adaptive. In this milestone, the children will adapt some things like how they dress, how they talk, or what food that they will eat. Patterns of growth within children may vary. Some children who show strength in one area of development might be slower to develop skills in other areas. Like for example, other children's really good at math, but they are slow in English. But in some cases, the patterns of growth vary, especially their culture or their environment. But it doesn't mean that a children is atypical if their development or their culture and their environment impact on how they develop.
Good day, students. So today we're going to talk about how culture and environment affects the way children behave. Development can be greatly influenced by cultural and environmental factors. While some behavior may be acceptable in one culture, it may be inappropriate to another. For example, making eye contact. Well, children tend to limit their eye contact when speaking to adults. This is to show respect. And prolonged eye contact may be inappropriate for children when speaking to adults. And then speaking to adults, in this example, children would only respond when they are asked to by an adult, and they would refer to them with titles such as sir or ma'am, and in our cases as Filipinos we add po and opo. And then taking initiatives. Children tend to only wait for adult instructions and wait for permission before doing activities. Exposure to a foreign language can influence the children on the way they learn and the way they interact. Children from indigenous communities may be included in classrooms where English is the medium of instruction. In this situation, these children would not be able to express their needs or participate fully in the class. Regardless of these differences, we cannot say that these children underwent and atypical development. Atypical development or a development delay. Some children would exhibit behaviors or patterns of behaviors that are unusual from their peers or are not within the typical developmental milestones. To provide care for these students, we teachers and also the parents should take note about the time and sequence at which these skills emerge and the quality of skill level at which it can influence or impact the functioning of the child. We should also note about the patterns of behaviors, about the dates and times of occurrence, duration and frequency, and type of activity, settings, and interactions. Taking note of these would enable us to confirm the areas of needs and provide care or provide something from where they are lacking from. So then we have Teacher Joy to continue our discussion.
Good day, students. I am Teacher Joy, your teacher of the day. So today let's talk about why is early child development is important. Early child development is crucial as it lays the foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. During this critical period, the brain of the children are highly impressionable, making an optimal time to nurture cognitive, social, and emotional skills. And investing early child development ensures that children have the best start in life, setting them up for success in school and beyond. Just like, for example, imagine two children, one who grows up in a nurturing environment with access to quality early childhood education, proper nutrition, and responsive caregiving. On the other hand, one who grows up in a disadvantaged environment with limited access to these resources. So it is very evident that the first child is more likely to develop strong cognitive, social, and emotional skills, while the second child is more likely to struggle in these areas. So this example illustrates how our early childhood experiences can have a lasting impact on our development and future outcomes. So a while ago, my co-teacher talked or discussed about the 5 stages of early child development, namely newborn, 0 to 3 months, infant, 3 to 12 months, toddler, 1 to 3 years old, preschool age, 3 to 4 years, and the last one, school age, 4 to 5 years. So when we say typical development, it refers to expected sequence of physical, cognitive, and emotional milestones that most children reach within a certain age range. On the other hand, atypical development refers to involves differences, delays, or disorders that affects a child development and may require intervention. So in conclusion, the study of typical and atypical development is not just an academic pursuit, but it's a vital exploration that shapes our understanding on human growth. By recognizing and embracing the diverse pathways of development, we can create a more inclusive and compassionate society for all children to thrive. May this topic serve as our stepping stone for further research and action in ensuring every child's optimal development and the future outcomes. And that would be all. Thank you for listening, class, and may God bless us all.